What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the A24 Archive. This is the segment in the channel where I go back through A24's entire catalog, watching the movies from start to finish. This has been a blast for me. Like I said, I have seen a lot of these movies. There's a lot of them that are first-time watches for me. And so this is really exciting for me to get a chance to talk about these movies and give recommendations and revisit some movies that I haven't seen in a long time. And the film today I saw when it was released in the theater, and I absolutely loved it when I saw it in the theater. And I saw it a couple times after that at home, but it's been years since I've seen this movie. And I am happy to say that this is when A24's filmography starts taking off. This is hands down the best movie I've watched in their catalog so far since revisiting it. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is The Spectacular Now. The Spectacular Now is directed by James Ponsoldt. Sutter, a popular party animal, unexpectedly meets the introverted Aimee after waking up on a stranger's lawn. As Sutter deals with problems in his life, and Aimee plans for her future beyond school, an unexpected romance blossoms between them. So I am a huge fan of any coming-of-age film. I love watching coming-of-age stories, especially ones that are really well told. And this, from memory, I remember loving it, but rewatching it recently, it really is one of the best coming-of-age films I've ever watched. I feel like the director was obviously projecting a lot of himself into the character of Sutter and probably exploring a lot of the ways that he felt in his own youth. So the film on the surface is you have this character Sutter, who's this super popular kid in school. Seems like everybody loves him. He's not like a jock or anything. He's just one of those like fun-loving, hilarious people who has like this really addictive personality that people like to be around. And at the beginning of the film, he's dating Brie Larson's character, very young Brie Larson. His life seemingly on the outside seems to be great. He's going to these parties, he's hanging out with people. Well, he ends up breaking up with Brie Larson's character because she says that she wants to actually do something with her life. She wants her life to move forward, and all Miles Teller cares about is being stuck in the moment now. He doesn't look forward towards anything. He has no plans for his future. One of the things that we're introduced to early on in the film is being an 18-year-old kid. He's constantly getting drunk. He works in town at this like suit store owned by Bob Odenkirk, who he's bringing in this like big gulp cup almost from like a 7-Eleven that he's always mixing alcohol into. And it's shown throughout the film he is essentially a functioning alcoholic. He spends every single day of his life drunk. He starts drinking really early on in the film, and he lives at home with his mom, played by Jason Leigh. He's a single mom. He constantly tries to bring up his dad, but she doesn't want him to have anything to do with his dad. And his sister is played by Elizabeth Winstead. She's married to this really wealthy guy, and it seems like their relationship is kind of broken. And so one day he goes out to these bars. He gets super wasted after Brie Larson breaks up with him. He drives drunk to try to get home. He ends up like crashing his car somewhere, and he wakes up in the middle of a front yard somewhere. And when he wakes up, Shailene Woodley's character Aimee is shaking him awake and says like, "Hey, you were passed out here on this lawn. What the fuck is going on with you?" He looks at her, and it takes him a minute to like kind of get with it. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm on my paper route." And he ends up going on her paper route with her so that she can help him find his car. Well, that's how it starts off. Well, at first, it seems like the two of their relationship builds because he's really fascinated with how passionate she is about things, but she's also really quiet and reserved, and she doesn't expose a lot about herself. She ends up telling him that she's never dated anyone before. She loves to read these like science fiction manga books. She's really passionate about what she wants to do in her own life, and she's looking towards the future, where Sutter is kind of stuck right where he is. He doesn't really want to leave high school. He's failing his classes, and we get more insight into why that's the case because of his family life. It's a really incredible character study about these two people who find each other at this very specific point in time, and that Shailene Woodley's character really loves how Sutter's character builds her up, which at first feels like he's just manipulating her and using her to get Brie Larson back, but then you start to see he truly sees her as this incredible, authentic person who has these interests and these beliefs and these things about her that make her who she is. and just wants to build himself off of that. And as the film goes on, there's these ups and downs between his character. He finally gets the period to where he gets to go visit his dad, and that gives you more insight into why he's drinking all the time and to why he feels the way that he does. And it's just a really beautiful character study about these two people. The cinematography in this film is gorgeous. I love the color palettes in it. There's so many really intimate and beautiful scenes between the two characters that feel like real life. So many of these movies, I feel like there's this hyper elevated Hollywood sense of what romance is, and not enough movies that really explore the quiet, tender moments of romance between two people. And this movie really looks at that on a real level of like, hey, this is how people really would be, these young teenagers in this situation, how they would act towards one another. And I just loved every second of it. I thought the score was great. It really elevates the film for me. The performances, Miles Teller is fantastic. I feel like, I know he was in the Top Gun Maverick recently, but I remember at this point in his career, between this and Whiplash and all these films that he was doing early on, he's just a really charismatic individual, and I'm sure there's people that find his personality obnoxious, but I think he's so energetic and such a great performance-driven actor. And this film, he gives a really amazing performance. Shailene Woodley as well is phenomenal in this movie. Their chemistry together just feels so realistic. It doesn't feel like a hammy Hollywood romance between two characters. Brie Larson is fantastic in this. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, while she's in it, is great. Jason Leigh does a phenomenal job. Kyle Chandler, who shows up and plays Sutter's dad, does a fantastic job in this film. It just feels like a movie that every person who watches it, there's something in this that you can relate to, whether it's feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you haven't succeeded, having a broken relationship between your parents, being bad at relationships, having someone who cares so deeply about you, but you feel like you're so broken that you can't be there enough for them. And there's so many elements of this movie that I feel like people can relate to, and it's done in a way that feels so realistic and so beautiful. And I'm really glad I watched this movie again. I feel like this is one that I'm going to add into my rotation a lot. It just made me feel good. There's a lot of it that made you feel like shit, but by the end of this movie, I felt good. It made me smile, and this is an A24 film that I feel like is a must-see in their catalog. So if you haven't seen The Spectacular Now, check it out. So have you seen The Spectacular Now? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I think this movie is amazing, and it is by far, of the 5 films I've revisited, the best movie in their catalog. As always, if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.